محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي كحرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء. يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحتك الإثم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لكل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفئ بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزئني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خازن متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني باسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم واسألك سؤال من استبت طاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وأزم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكروه وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لكبائه ساترا ولا لشيء من عمل كبيه بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك. ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترت وكم من فاضح من البلاء أكلت وكم من إيثار وكيت وكم من مكروه دفعت وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرت. اللهم عظم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي وكسرت بي أعمالي وكدأت بي أغلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد أماني وخدتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفزحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا ولي في جميع الأمور أطوفا إلهي وربي من لي غيره أسأله كشف الضر والنظر في أمري إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما أهوى وأسأله على ذلك الفزاع فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدوده وخالفت بعض أوامرك فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاء وألزمني حكمك وبلاء وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تكسيري وإسرافي على نفسي مؤتزرا نادما منكسرا مستكيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وصاكي يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني بركة جلدي ودقة عزمي يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي هبني لابتداء كرمك وصالح برك بي يا إلهي وسيدي وربي أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما انتهى إليه قلبي من معرفتك ولحجابه لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق ترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تزيع من ربيت أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي وتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدة وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقة وبشكرك مادحة وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة وعلى زمار أحوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارح سأت إلى أوطان تأبدك طائعة وشارت باستغفارك مذعنة ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك أنت يا كريم يا رب يا كريم يا رب يا كريم يا رب. وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها، وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكسور، يسير البقاء كثير مدته. فكيف احتمال لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا لغضبك وانتقامك وسخطك، وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض. يا سيدي، فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحكير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو، ولما من هذا وأبكي، لأليم العذاب وشدته، أم لطول البلاء ومدته. فلئن سيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك، وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك، وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فحبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي. صبرت على عذابك، فكيف أصبر على فراقك؟ وحبني صبرت على حر نارك، فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك؟ أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي يفور؟ فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا، لئن تركتني ناطقا لأزجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج العاملين، ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولا أنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته، وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته، وبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته، وهو يزج إليك زجيج مأمل رحمتك، ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك، ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي. فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يهلكه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفا؟ أم كيف يتكلكل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقا؟ أم كيف تجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في تكه منها فتتركه فيها حيهات؟ ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك، ولا مشبه لما عملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك. فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاحدي، وكزيت به من إخلاد معانديك. أجلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما، وما كان لأحد فيها مكرا ولا مقاما. لكنك تكدست أسماؤك، أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، وأن تجلى ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا، وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما. أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي، فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها، وبالكزية التي حتمتها وحكمتها، وغلبت من عليه أجريتها، أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته، وكل ذنب أذنبته، وكل قبيح أسررته، وكل جهل عملته، كتمته أو أعلنته، أخفيته أو أظهرته، وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني، وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي، وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم، والشاهد لما خفي عنهم، وبرحمتك أخفيت، وبفضلك سترت، وأن توفر حظي من كل خير أنزلت، أو إحسان فضلت، أو بر نشرت، أو رزق بسطت، أو ذنب تغفروه، أو خطأ تستروه. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب. يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك ركي، يا من بيده ناصيتي، يا أليما بضري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب. أسألك بحقك وقدسك وعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك مأمورة، وبخدمتك موصولة، وأعمالي عندك مقبولة، حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا، وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي، يا من عليه مؤولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب. فهو على خدمتك جوارحي، واجدد على العزيمة جوارحي، وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في اتصال بخدمتك، حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين الصابحين، وأسرع إليك في البارزين، وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين، وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين، وخافك مخافة الموقنين، واجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرده، ومن قادني فكده، واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نسيبا عندك، واقربهم منزلة منك، وخصهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك. وجود لي بجودك، وعطف علي بمجدك، واحفظني برحمتك، واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا، وقلبي بحبك متيما، ومن علي بحسن إجابتك، وكلني أسرتي، واغفر زلتي، فإنك كزيت على عبادك بعبادتك، وأمرتهم بدعائك، وزمنت لهم الإجابة. فإليك يا ربي نسبت وجهي، وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي، فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي، وبلغني مناي، ولا تعت من فضلك رجائي، واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي. يا سريع الرضا، يا سريع الرضا، يا سريع الرضا، اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء، فإنك فعال لما تشاء. يا من اسمه دواء، وذكره شفاء، وطاعته غنى، ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء، وصلاحه البقاء. يا سابغ النعم، يا دافع النكم، يا نور المستوحشين في الظلم، يا عالما لا يعلم، صل على محمد وآل محمد، وافعل بما أنت أهله، وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله، وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Ahsan. Brother Daniel, may Allah accept your recitation. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I will request Sheikh Amin to continue with his Nahjul Balagha.
Thank you, Brother Bakr. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الخطبة الثانية والعشرون. We were discussing the 22nd khutbah of Nahjul Balagha, where the Imam, if you remember, it was discussed last week that in passing I said it, that there is a difference of opinion regarding this khutbah and whether it is delivered in regards to the people of Siffin or the people of Jamal, and these two incidents. In the book here, Sayyid al-Radi, he, along with others, I've noticed other commentators of Nahjul Balagha also, they have agreed that this is about the Battle of Jamal. But when you look at the wording, it can also, it also fits the things that are said in the khutbah fit the description of ashab or the people of Siffin. But yeah, I based my discussion on and the assumption that it is going to be in regards to that the Imam says these lines in regards to the people of Jamal. last week where we ended, it was the last line we had was وَإِنَّهُمْ لَيَطْلُبُونَ حَقًّا هُمْ تَرَكُوهُ وَدَمًا هُمْ سَفَكُوهُ. We discussed how in this khutbah, the Imam, he kind of is letting the people know that if these people are after the right, the Ashabul Jamal are after the right of Uthman, they are trying to make sure that they fulfill that right that Uthman had. And he says that this is a right that they themselves, the Ashab of Jamal, they themselves deserted. They themselves did not live up to and fulfill. He says that about them. And I explained last week in our last session what that exactly means. And even more than that, the Imam says they are after a blood that they themselves spilled. So they are demanding justice for a blood that they themselves spilled. Yes? And I had 3 or 4 examples for why, and these are just examples. There are more examples in history as well that our scholars, our historians, will point out as proof and evidence that yes, the people, the main, those spearheading the Battle of Jamal, they were the ones who had something to do with what took place with Uthman's assassination. We went through a few of those examples. That these pieces of evidence, they add up, yeah. And a person who is studying these slowly comes to this conclusion that yes, there was stuff going on that mainstream Islam today might not acknowledge as a fact. But when you look at the different things, events that took place, the different things that were said by different people who later on led this whole battle of Jamal against Imam Ali alayhi salam, you find that yes, it adds up. I explained a lot about this last week. These are touchy subjects, by the way, and touchy subjects because they have to do with Shia-Sunni polemics, of course. And so we try to keep as much respect as we can and try our best not to be provocative and keep things more ilmi and academic. Yes, in the end, each person, it's them and the raw material and what conclusions they come to. The different scholars from the Shi'i school of thought, Sunni school of thought will present their understanding, what they get out of these sources. But in the end, it's you and I who are either convinced or not convinced. Okay. The Imam goes on after he says they are after a right. They are demanding the right of somebody that they themselves trampled and a blood that they themselves spilled and had something to do with its spilling. فَلَئِن كُنْتُ شَرِيكَهُمْ فِيهِ فَإِنَّ لَهُمْ لَنَصِيبَهُم مِّنْهُ وَلَئِن كَانُوا وَلُوهُ دُونِي فَمَا التَّبِعَةُ إِلَّا عِنْدَهُمْ. Here the Imam says, look, if these people who are now calling me out and saying that I am the one who has to, they're demanding that justice from me, the assumption is, based on the previous line that we covered, the assumption, the Imam is assuming, he's saying that, look, what's for sure is that you all had something to do with this. So, either you all had something to do with it and I also have something to do with it, or I have nothing to do with it. In both cases, you are in trouble as well, if not being the only ones in trouble. So if I was a person that was involved in the assassination of Uthman, the assumption is that you all were as well. So if you're going to come after me, someone has to come after you all. In other words, mind your own business. Yes? Mind your own business. You are in as much trouble as I am. Assuming that I had something to do with it, which we all believe and know that Imam Ali did not have anything to do with it. And even the Sunni school of thought today, mainstream, when you look at what they say, no one really says that Imam Ali had anything to do with the assassination of Uthman. As a matter of fact, it wasn't him, it was others who had, and he was the one who was defending Uthman. Even during Muawiyah's time, there are some who might not have believed that Imam Ali had to do something with it. They were just saying, they were demanding that Imam Ali turns over and gives hands turns in and hands over the killers of Uthman to Muawiyah. And Imam Ali had an explanation of why he can't do that. First and foremost, he doesn't even know who they are. He says, we don't even know who. People stormed the house, stormed the palace, and someone killed Uthman. I don't know. I can't, put the blame on one or two people when I'm not sure and hand them over. Anyway, so the point being is that Imam Ali says, assuming I had something to do with it, you also had something to do with it indirectly. And so we're all in trouble then. Don't come after me, go after yourselves. Or, no. You all had something to do with it, and it's not even proven that I did something, that I had anything to do with it. As a matter of fact, it's proven that I didn't have anything to do with it. فَمَا التَّبِعَةُ إِلَّا عِنْدَهُمْ. In this case, the sin is all on them, and the burden is on them coming after me and causing fitna in the Muslim world with the civil strifes that they put the Muslim world through. Okay. وَإِنَّ أَعْظَمَ حُجَّتِهِمْ لَعَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ. If you bring up the blood of Uthman, if you bring up the assassination of Uthman, and that is your greatest hujjah upon me, your greatest argument against me, well, you are the perfect example of this argument. This argument applies to you more than anything else. Your argument, well, thank you for coming to me with the argument, because now that argument applies to you. It's as if, they have given away that which can get themselves in trouble. If the blood of Uthman is the argument, then you're in trouble. This hujjah is against you. يَرْتَدِعُونَ أُمًّا قَدْ فَطَمَتْ وَيُحْيُونَ بِدْعَةً قَدْ أُمِيتَتْ. He says, you know what these people are trying to do? They are, now, the wording in Arabic, if I want to translate this verbatim, it's that they are suckling from a mother whose milk has gone dry. Okay? This is an expression that they are trying to, during the time of Uthman, yes, as I've said before as well, during the time of Uthman, people milked the Muslim empire and the Muslim treasury for whatever it was worth. I mean, you have to see the quote-unquote generosities that were exhibited during the time of Uthman, especially the second 6 years of Uthman's rule. It's out there, it's all in the books. Very generously, money was given left and right to people. And so these people who happen to be from the same tribe, they are of the Bani Umayyah, lots of them, who are now occupying different positions in the Muslim world. These people they really milked the Muslim treasury, Baytul Mal, for whatever it was worth. And so they want to continue. The Imam says, you've milked this cow for whatever it's worth. It ain't got no milk no more. It's over. Those days are over that you can milk this cow. Number one. Number two, يُحْيُونَ بِدْعَةً قَدْ أُمِيتَتْ. They are trying to revive a bid'ah, an innovation in the religion that has been destroyed with the coming of Imam Ali to power and becoming Khalifa and assuming that position. Brothers and sisters, we covered this in previous khutbahs of Nahjul Balagha, where Imam Ali, he actually lays out his plans, his future plans for his Khilafah, and how he's going to take things back to where they're supposed to go. And he's going to get rid of anyone and everyone who is occupying a position but is not qualified to occupy the position. So Imam Ali lays it all out. In other words, with the arrival of Imam Ali and him assuming the position of Khilafah, this bid'ah of just the fact that you're the relatives of somebody and now you can be in power, this bid'ah, this innovation was dried up. Now you see, brothers and sisters, the Imam points out a bid'ah. This bid'ah has to do with the Islamic State, the Islamic government. We have to break away from this understanding that bid'ah is like Taraweeh prayer only, or is like fasting when you're a traveler, because in the Shi'i school of thought, when you're traveling, you can't fast, and things like that. These are all bid'ah. Yeah, these are bid'ah. These are innovation. into the religion, and they're haram in our school of thought, because we believe that these are not things sanctioned, these are not forms of worship sanctioned by our Lord and the Sharia. But that is not what it's limited to. Imam Ali here is referring to something as bid'ah that has nothing to do with worship, and it has everything to do with the governing and governance of the people. And that when you are governing and ruling over the people, you have to have qualifications. This is a bid'ah, also in the eyes of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And this is why Islam, and specifically, especially Shi'ism, these are well-rounded faiths. They don't just touch on one aspect of life, they touch on every aspect of life. We believe, of course, mainstream Shi'ism believes. Now, the Imam says this bid'ah is done. It was destroyed and died and was given death. Umitat. Not matat. Umitat. Matat means when something dies. Umitat means when death is given to it. Yes? And so he says it was killed. This bid'ah was killed, of course, with him becoming Khalifa. He says they're trying to revive it. It's not going to happen. I personally want to say this, by the way. This line, I think, is one of those proofs that this khutbah is the addressee of this khutbah. The one the Imam is speaking of, the ones the Imam is speaking of in this khutbah are Ashabul Jamal, not the Ashab of Muawiyah in Siffin, because it's talking about a bid'ah that wants to be revived. Yes, those who will argue that this khutbah is for Siffin, they'll say the bid'ah of Bani Umayyah coming back to power, for example. That is what is meant. But it seems, I don't know, it just seems that when the Imam says bid'ah here, in general, he's talking about the fact that governance was in the wrong hands, and as a result, everyone could come and milk this cow for whatever it was worth. Okay? All right. So he goes on. After he's kind of breaking things down like this, pointing out what their argument is, pointing out what they're after, and revival of a bid'ah, and so on, personal interests, which, man, you know, this sends shivers down one's spine. The fact that these individuals reach such a point where Imam Ali is calling them out because of what they're after, which is their personal interests. He says, Ya khaybat ad-da'i man da'a wa ila ma ujib. And this is also an expression that the Imam, he says, da'i means a person who calls, a caller. Okay? So when you're calling out to others for whatever, for help, for whatever it is, he says, Ya khaybat ad-da'i. Khayba means when you fail at something. And so caller and failure. He says this person who's calling out to the Muslims to come to his aid or her aid in the battle of Jamal, this is what a loser call and calling. And what a failure of a call to others. Why? Man da'a. Who are they calling to come help them? The people of Basra, other places? Who? The Imam is kind of, taking a shot at them now. He says, what a failed effort. Yes? And what a failed call. Why? Because look at the ones you're calling to your help. And look at what they're answering you with. They are coming to fight Imam Ali alayhi salam. Now this, the battle of Jamal, is, I would say, maybe at the peak of Imam Ali's power. Yes? People didn't defect from Imam Ali's side to the other side in the battle of Jamal the way they did in the battle of Siffin. You had some generals, proper generals, according to some accounts of history at least, that defected from one side to the other, right? Or were at least, doing certain things of fitna and causing issues. If I'm not mistaken, a person like Ash'ath bin Qais, if I'm not mistaken, was like that, for example. Anyway, the point I want to make is this right now. This is at the peak of, it seems, it's safe, I would say it's safe to say, at the peak of his power. He says, look at who they're calling and what they're getting in response, and they want to start a war or a battle. What a failure. What a failed effort by them. وَإِنِّي لَرَاضٍ بِحُجَّةِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَعِلْمِهِ فِيهِمْ. He says, and I'm satisfied, I'm good with the fact that Allah has a hujjah upon them. Everything that's going to happen, what we're going to do, how we're going to encounter these people, there's a hujjah of Allah upon them. Allah has left no excuse for them. Why? Because the one that they're going to fight, Imam Ali alayhi salam, is the Khalifa of the Muslimin right now. Why is it that no one can go against the first Khalifa, the second, the third? No one can go against them. Why is it all of a sudden that people feel that they are allowed to, and there's no problem in them rising against the fourth Khalifa? And this is a hujjah upon them. It leaves no excuse for them. You are going against somebody which is one, the Khalifa of the Muslimin, and two, you have given him bay'ah. That's why they were referred to as the nakithin, the ones who broke their oath, because they had an oath with Ali ibn Abi Talib. When Ali became Khalifa, they gave him bay'ah. Yes, he was one of the right, quote unquote, of course, rightfully guided ones. Al-Khulafa al-Rashidin, as they are referred to. And so Allah has left no excuse for these people, number one. وَعِلْمِهِ فِيهِمْ. And Allah knows and is aware of what's going on in their hearts, and that their excuses are just excuses, and that they in no way these excuses are a justification to cause this civil strife, yes, that is going to end up and lead to the blood of thousands being spilled, unfortunately. And that's what these accounts tell us, that thousands lost their lives in the battle of Jamal. All right, he goes on to say this now. Once he's done, he's speaking all logical now, Imam Ali. He says, if this is the argument, it applies to you as well. If you're assuming that I had something to do with it, well, the assumption is you also had something to do with it. So you're in trouble anyway. And so on. These arguments and him keeping things logical. But now the Imam moves on, and he takes on an epic tone to what he's saying now, and to himself. And he puts logic aside now. Not that he wants to be illogical, but he's not going to try to convince anybody anymore. He's done his argumentation. He's done his attempts to convince. But now he says, look, and what he's going to say is based on this fact that, look, people are not going to always go by logic because they are driven by their personal interests and desires. And so as a result, sometimes force has to be used. And so the Imam says, he says, فَإِنْ أَبَوْا, if they are defiant and they deny to return back to Islam, to return back to that bay'ah and allegiance that they gave me, أَعْطَيْتُهُمْ حَدَّ السَّيْفِ, I will give them the edge of my sword, and they will experience the edge of my sword. And that is a very sharp cutting edge, brothers and sisters. Yes, everyone knows about the sword of Ali ibn Abi Talib. If there's discussion about, the Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his time, did he ever engage in battle directly and taking anyone's life directly? Which there are some accounts of at least a couple or two or three, four maybe that might have lost their life at the hands of the Prophet in battle. But that is disputed. Now, if that's the case, no one has any doubt about Ali ibn Abi Talib's sword, right? Before I go on, now that I opened up that parenthesis about the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, some might ask, well, why is that the case? Well, what these scholars tell us is that the Holy Prophet was careful not to take the life of too many people in battle, because that would cause them to have grudges against him. what the Prophet needed to do, because it wasn't the battle that the Prophet was after, it was post-battle that the Prophet was after. Well, where when these enemies of God were defeated, they were forced to embrace that which they knew was the truth. If they held grudges against the Prophet, that would make it even harder for them to accept. And so the Prophet was careful as much as he could, but someone's got to do the work, and Ali ibn Abi Talib was the one. So if the Holy Prophet was pretty um, careful about that, someone else was doing the hard work, and that was Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, with his sword. Yes. And so the Imam, he says, he's reminding them of his sword. وَكَفَى بِهِ شَافِيًا مِنَ الْبَاطِلِ وَنَاصِرًا لِلْحَقِّ. The Imam, he makes a very important point here. He says, and this sword is enough to bring a cure to those struggling from batil, who are ailing from batil, as if batil is a sickness, is a cancer, and that cancerous tumor has to be removed by a blade, as if. Yes, he says the sword is enough for getting rid of batil and curing those ailing from batil. وَنَاصِرًا لِلْحَقِّ, and an aid for haqq. Because brothers and sisters, as I said, lots of times it's not about understanding, it's not about being convinced, it's not about logic, it's about ana, it's about what I want, it's about what can I get out of things, my personal interests and so on. All right, that's what it's all about. If that's the case, there is no choice but force. And this is where those people who today, we have to be aware of this, that we have the cherry pick from Islam, and it's as if it's a buffet. You take and pick and choose whichever way you like, right? They have to be careful about this. Look, Islam is a religion of peace. Islam is a religion of akhlaq, yes, and all of these things. But at the same time, Islam, when it's needed, is not going to be all lovey-dovey either. Yes, we have so many hadith on this, yeah, about how force sometimes is needed for certain things. Because the same way a parent will force their child into certain things because they know it's good for them, sometimes there are some who have to be strong-armed. There's no other way. The person is getting in the way of Islam reaching others. This Islam is supposed to secure their akhirah and their future. Yes? And so Islam's not going to wait and say, let me just keep everyone happy. No, that's not how it works, brothers and sisters. There will be times where Islam will also has to enforce things and implement them in the society. Yeah. But it worries. A person looks around today, it gets a little worrying that you notice that this postmodern era that we're in, it is the one that is giving definitions of things to us. The definition of a good religion versus a bad religion. Yes? And whatever doesn't conform to that definition, doesn't match that description, is a bad religion. No. We don't get the definitions from the secular world, right? This is something that you see here and there growing more and more. And so God help us in that. You see that the criteria, the standards are changing now. And may God help us in understanding that. We need to stick to the Islam that our scholars get from the sources. That's what it is. Anyway, وَمِنَ الْعَجَبِ, as I said, he's speaking with an epic tone now, Imam Ali. And so he says, I am surprised that these people have sent for me, have sent for me to fight them and for me to come out for the striking of spears and to be ready for in the endurance of the swords and fighting with swords and so on. Yes, they've seen what I'm all about. They've seen me in Badr, they've seen me in Uhud, they've seen me in Ahzab and Khandaq, they've seen me in Khaybar. They've seen all of this or heard about it. Either they themselves have been there, or if they weren't there, some of those other ones who are younger, they have heard about what I was all about. And that Ali has not changed, by the way. As a matter of fact, that Ali is more seasoned and is ready to go. And so here he kind of is now, kind of, let's say, for lack of a better word here, is belittling them, is kind of like looking down on them and kind of laughing at them. Like, what are you talking about? وَمِنَ الْعَجَبِ, he says, it's funny, it's surprising, it really blows one's mind that they are asking Ali to come out to fight them. I feel personally, once again, that this line right here is a little bit of a clue to push me towards, having that inclination that this khutbah is with Ashabul Jamal. The reason for that, I don't want to get into, but just the way he's speaking to them, it seems that it would be the Ashab of Jamal who he's speaking to. هَبِلَتْهُمُ الْهَبُولِ, may the weeping mothers weep for them. That means these people, there's no choice for them. They have to leave this dunya with my sword. Brothers and sisters, let us not forget. Now I'm saying all of this, and I'm saying Islam, when the time is right, is not going to be all lovey-dovey. But look, it's not easy for someone to reach this point where they have no choice but to use force. It's very important that we read up on those steps leading up to and stages leading up to the Battle of Jamal. What did these people do when they went to Basra? The governor of Basra, what they did to the governor of Basra, which was appointed by Ali ibn Abi Talib, which was a righteous individual, how they took him this close to death, but they didn't kill him, but they tortured him. They plucked every hair off of his face and head and wherever else. And so wherever else on his face and head, they plucked it all out, they say. This is the torment they put people through. They took people's lives. They looted the treasury in Basra. And they didn't kill that governor because his brother was in Medina, governor of Medina back then. Maybe, yes, I think it was, no, I don't remember which city it was, but they were afraid that their relatives are going to get killed by the governor back in the Arabian Peninsula. And so they didn't kill the governor of Basra, but what they did was they tortured him to close to death. This is what they did. And so a person has to understand, look at the entire context here, and then they'll appreciate that Ali ibn Abi Talib had to use force. Yes? I mean, let's look at, the world we live in today. Yes? The world we live in today. The people are out there, and this after George Floyd was killed, what happens is the people, they see that there's no choice anymore for them. So they will go out, even rioting, even getting violent. Now here, there's two approaches to this. There's two reactions one can have to this. One can say, oh my God, looting is bad, violence is bad. One can say, well, what pushed these people to this point where there's no other choice? And once they understand that and look back and read a little bit, and we don't even have to read anymore. All you need to do is just Google it or go on YouTube and you'll see video clips of the brutality. Not one, not two, not 10, not 20, not 50 cases. There's so many cases. And you'll understand, okay, these people, there's a reason. That's the only way they can get justice. That's the only way they can get their demands. And so we have to understand that this is how it is. هَبِلَتْهُمْ الْهُبُولِ, that may the weeping mothers weep for them. Well, there's no other choice. لَقَدْ كُنْتُ وَمَا أُهَدَّدُ بِالْحَرْبِ. I never get threatened by fighting. Think about it, brothers and sisters. 25 years have passed. Ali ibn Abi Talib has not really fought. During the time of the three khulafa before him, he wouldn't go out in those conquests. Other Sahaba would go, but Ali ibn Abi Talib would not go. And so he hasn't been in action for 25 years, and now they're threatening him, quote unquote, threatening him with battle and war. He says, hey, you can't threaten me with war. وَلَا أُرْهَبُ بِالضَّرْبِ, and I can't be scared. Nothing scares me when it comes to getting struck. Yes? Getting struck for me is not a problem. It's not something that will scare me off. Okay, so battle is not a problem. Getting struck is not a problem. وَإِنِّي لَعَلَى يَقِينٍ مِّن رَبِّي وَغَيْرِ شُبْهَةٍ مِّن دِينِي. He says, and verily, I have a yaqeen when it comes to my Lord, a conviction when it comes to my Lord. And at the same time, I have no doubt in my religion either. Let's talk about this a little bit. This is very important. This is a key line in this khutbah. And this is the last line in the khutbah. Two things the Imam mentions here. He says, I have a yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I have no doubt when it comes to religion, my religion. It seems what he's trying to say is this, that look, first of all, my religion has told me what I'm supposed to do in this situation that I'm in right now. As the Khalifa, having to keep order within society. At the same time, having a haqq and right over the people who have given me their allegiance. Yes, I have a duty to keep that order for the people. Okay. So that's I have no doubt in that. At the same time, I know what my taklif is, I know what my responsibility is. At the same time, I have conviction in my Lord as well. Yes? And when you have conviction, brothers and sisters, in the Lord, you will not compromise His satisfaction for anyone else's satisfaction. And so, in other words, I am ready to draw the sword, Ali ibn Abi Talib is saying here. He says, you threaten me with these things, you try to scare me off, it's not going to happen. I have a yaqeen in my Lord. My Lord, His satisfaction is the most important thing for me. Number one. And number two, I know what I'm supposed to do in this situation, what my religion tells me in this situation to do. And so I will do it, no problem. These two, brothers and sisters, are the wings to fly. If one of these two wings is not there, is broken, a person will probably not be able to fulfill their duty. Number one, for example, sometimes you have a yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you want His satisfaction over everyone else's satisfaction. That's good. But you have a shubha when it comes to the deen and what the deen wants from you in a given scenario. Yes? So what happens here? You make a mistake. It's fine. You are, probably going to be excused for that. Probably, not all the time. If it was your fault that you didn't identify your taklif, that's a different story. But no, if you really thought that your taklif is a certain thing, and you go ahead and do it, but it's the wrong taklif, and you have conviction in God, that means nothing's going to stop you. You're going to do it. In these cases, yes, you haven't destroyed your akhirah, but you might destroy things in this dunya. You might destroy the Islam of certain people. Yeah. If you do amr al-ma'ruf when you're not supposed to, for example, you're going to hurt somebody's feelings for no reason. That person might turn away from Islam later. Sometimes you do have to do amr al-ma'ruf and you don't do it because you think you're not supposed to. It will do damage. Someone will get away with doing something wrong for a long time. So a shubha should not ever be there. When you have a doubt of what my wazifa is, even if you have yaqeen in Allah and you want Allah's satisfaction, you're confused as to what to do. And so that's going to be a problem itself. You sometimes make a mistake. Sometimes there are ramifications to what you've done, irreparable ramifications. Now, on the flip side as well, sometimes you know exactly what you're supposed to do, but the problem is the yaqeen in Allah is not there. You're not after His satisfaction, You know, what you're after is, what will this person think? What will that person think? Things along those lines. And so you know what Allah wants from you, yet you fail to do it because you don't have that yaqeen that you're supposed to have. In both cases, when you have a shubha in your deen or you have lack of yaqeen in Allah, in both of these cases, if one of these two is missing, or both, God forbid, are missing, a person will ruin their dunya, and most probably, in addition to that, the akhirah. One or both of them. If not both, at least one of them. They will mess stuff up in the dunya, or they might mess stuff up in their akhirah, if not both. We seek refuge in Allah from all of that. That is the conclusion that Imam Ali comes to after all of what he talks about regarding Ashabul Jamal. He says, look, this is the decision. I will not be threatened. I am not scared because I have two wings to fly with. That is something that, inshallah, as his Shia, as his followers, we have to also strive to attain. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.